It's really just really celebrating who they are. Most men exactly, and women do this too, but they don't celebrate themselves. They're always performance driven, performance based. And I went through this because when that happened to me in November, when I couldn't walk and I was just using a scooter to get around, I really didn't celebrate the victories I had for 2020, that made me slow down. And I really looked at our Sticker Shock Speaking Academy that we had in July, and I was like, wow, like to think that during COVID, 20 plus people came to San Antonio. We had a very successful event. We helped speakers learn how to make 5,000, 10,000 off paid speaking engagements. Is I had to go back and celebrate. I cried on the couch one day because I realized, wow, I did all this. And when I look into an executive's eyes and they're stuck, it's because they feel unworthy and undeserving. So I really go back and say, look at everything you've done. But they go back, many go back to that memory of as a child and the father saying, you're never going to amount to nothing. You're not good enough. And that's the record that plays in their head, no matter how much success they have in their business. And then what happens is they try to a lot of times they try to cope with that through alcohol or whatever it is. And I'm like, well, why do you think you're self-sabotaging? And the real reason is a lot of times they're trying to get validated from their dad, right? They want their dad's approval. So when we have these sessions, I really go in there and let them know that you're already approved. God's already approved you. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. Maybe they're trying to prove something to their ex-wife or to their husband, or you think about one of that Shark Tank lady, right? The real estate. I can't think of her name, but Barbara Corcoran, her motivation is her ex-husband. And she's still trying to prove something. I don't know her personally, but I can, just the way she speaks, you can see it in her. But when are you going to stop proving it and just really celebrate what you've done? And I think that's the biggest hiccup I've seen in business owners and executives is it doesn't matter how high, when they go from, they think, right, when I get to VP, I'm going to be excited. When I get to president, I'm going to be excited. When I get to regional director and CEO, and no matter how high they go, it's never enough because the void is inside themselves, not in the position they hold.
What's interesting to me about that, there are a couple things. One, I feel like there's always, if you watched The Last Dance with Michael Jordan, right? He was so driven because people told him he wasn't going to be good enough. He made up stories about it. He admits to it now. He's like, I would make up stories and tell me like so-and-so was trash talking me so that he would go on the court and push even harder. In business, I see people just like you're talking about Barbara Corcoran, who they have a chip on their shoulder and they are going to prove themselves. My dad said I couldn't make it. I'm going to show him. My mom said I couldn't make it. I'm going to show her. My ex did that, right? I'm going to show them. And they push really, really hard. If they are successful, what I've seen, and I think like most people can see this, the people reach the top and they're not happy. Right?
Yes.
They've pushed so hard and they've got there and they're like, screw you. Like, look at me. I'm at the top of the mountain. And they realize that nobody cares. Like the person that you were trying to like, see, look at me go, to your point, they are trying to get validated, right? If they just went and talked to the person, even if they had a conversation, one of my favorite stories about that kind of goes with this, supposedly Abraham Lincoln back during the Civil War, one of his generals made a huge mistake. We could have won the whole war, and he made a huge mistake and like didn't move the troops where they needed to be. And Abraham Lincoln, instead of getting upset at him and calling him in and screaming at him, whatever would have happened, right? He wrote a letter, and then he wrote another letter, and then he wrote a third letter. They found 5 letters when he died that were put in a box that were addressed to the general, and he never sent them. And he had told his wife or somebody, like, these are here, but don't ever show them to him. Like, they're just here. And it was his way of like talking himself out of doing it because he knew it wouldn't do any good. He knew that it would just cause problems, right? And I feel like that you can do that with any situation in life. Like you can have a conversation with your mom, your dad, your ex, any of them. And you don't actually have to have the conversation. Just have it on paper. Have it out loud with a mirror. Like that gets you past that so that you can free yourself up. Are you looking to scale your business but trying to figure out how to get your message across? Well, go to storyselling.how to grab my free course that will show you how to discover everything that you need to build your business through stories. These stories work whether it's in social media, email, or public speaking. There are 5 core stories that you'll learn. You'll be able to use all of them by the time you're done with this course. Again, that is storyselling.how. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to tune in next time.